This is But the Years Are Short, the podcast where mamas who are therapists share real advice for real families. I'm Meagan.
And I'm Katie, and we want to be your front porch community where you can laugh and learn with us about the beautiful, messy, overwhelming, hilarious work of raising kids.
Because the days are long,
but the years are short.
All right, welcome. Katie, we got a fun topic today, or an interesting topic, I'll say. We are going to be talking about privacy in families and then things like that. So, Katie, when I just kind of throw that out, what is the first thing you think of?
So a lot of times people think about privacy in terms of helping manage kids and their tech, right?
Yeah.
And all of that. And we're going at it from a little bit of a different angle today. So what we wanted to cover today is privacy from our kids.
Which is honestly something that I don't know if I thought a lot about until my kids started getting older, if I'm going to be really honest.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for you, what are the areas and the things that you notice for actually, let's pause. How would you define what privacy is before we even kind of jump into that? How do you teach your kids about it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. So I think privacy to me, I don't know if I have so I didn't Google it, right? I don't have a Merriam-Webster definition right in my pocket. But I think for me, privacy from my kids or from other people really means that people don't have a right to all of my thoughts, feelings, space, belongings until I am ready to share those things with them. I get to decide that,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I think. What do you think?
I agree. So I think that's it. I think the thing that we talk about a lot in our family is privacy respects my boundaries and protects myself and my relationships versus secrecy, which is actually something that is going to harm me and harm my relationship. So I think that's the only difference. And I think that can be kind of hard for parents and in kids. But I think secrecy is something that we keep because we know it's going to hurt someone, or we know it's going to or we don't want anyone's opinion about it in a way that is detrimental to ourselves or relationships, versus privacy, like you're saying, it is something that I get to own, I get to control. It is not damaging myself or relationships that are important to me. And so I get to hold that balance in that line. And I think that's not always easy for us to see. It's not as black and white as I'm saying, and I totally recognize that.
That's actually super helpful. And I think it's going to be really helpful when we talk about the way that this plays itself out, right? Because I think this is sort of a controversial topic because I don't want to speak for you. I get some pushback about this because sort of the area that I specialize in is helping people either through a divorce process or after a divorce process in co-parenting. Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of my whole bag of tricks, right? That's where I spend my days in clinical work. And so when we talk about privacy from our kids, I spend a lot of time there. And so sometimes, I'd say pretty often, I get a fair amount of pushback from parents. And so we're going to go through kind of the arguments for privacy from our kids and the arguments against privacy from our kids, because I hear these pretty often. And I think that they're pretty, it's helpful to consider them and where you kind of land on them. So, okay, so my where I lean,
yes,
in terms of privacy from our kids, right? So is that I, Katie, have a right to my private thoughts, feelings, emotional processes from anybody, right? From not just my kids, but from my best friends, from my, whoever. And
All the people
I
in
get
your
to
world.
decide. Yeah, and I get to decide when I want to share those, like when I'm at a point where I can talk through those, and when I need to just kind of think through them, journal about them, whatever. And this kind of bleeds over into other things, right? Like boundaries around tech, like my phone or my laptop, or and also my space, right? So I think about like my room, or like the drawers in my room, or my purse, like, so if you think about so like when your kids are really little and they like toddlers, right? And they get in your purse and they like pull all the cards out of your wallet and all that stuff.
Throw everything everywhere.
Yeah. And it's funny and it's cute and all that stuff. But if you had, a 12-year-old like digging through your purse, it feels different, right? Like, or it does to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a me thing. But you also, like, if you think about privacy, right? If you were sitting at a softball game or a soccer game or a tennis match for your kids and the person next to you like picks up your purse and starts going through it, that would feel super inappropriate.
Yeah.
That's an invasion of privacy. Right? And so at some point, we teach our kids that there is a level of privacy afforded to other people.
Yeah.
Right? And so it not only teaches them how to respect me as a person, but how to respect other people and their privacy. I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it when we're teaching our kids, modeling that and helping them to learn those I think the thing about privacy is there's a lot of invisible boundaries, right? We obviously stuff, obviously, but there's just so many invisible boundaries that come with privacy that it can be like challenging. So when we are modeling it and explaining to our kids why, like, no, I get to say no. I know you just saw me have a hard conversation with XYZ family member, but I get to say, like, that's not your business. Mommy's gonna hold that. Mommy's gonna be okay with that, but you don't get to know. It's not a kid's business. And because those are super important things, that privacy not only just, like, to me, this is why it goes back to my boundaries. Like, it not only protects me, but it protects my child. They don't need to know a lot of these things. It becomes a burden for them. And so it protects those relationships when we can navigate that privacy and say, like, no, I'm just sad right now. You can give me a hug, but you don't need to know all the details. That protects them in so many ways. And so I do think privacy is, again, back to like the difference for privacy and secrecy. Privacy protects.
Okay, so let me give you like a couple things that I have heard, right? So
Yeah, I want to hear these.
So when we talk through like having that approach, right? I'm just having a hard day. I'm going to be good, or I just had a hard conversation. I'm going to be fine. And, your kiddo says, what happened? Tell me what happened. What'd they say? And you're really kind of trying to hold that, like, I'm not ready to talk about it. That's not something I want to share with you. Because that's not, either it's not age appropriate or it's just not something you want to talk about. So I hear this sometimes from parents that, like, I share everything with my kids. I want them to feel safe. I want them to see how I process things because I want to teach them. So when we come from that angle, right, where it's like, I want my kids to see all of my feelings about things, what would you say to that?
Yes. Okay, so I think we have to be really aware and cognizant about what are we actually asking for our kids in the moment. Because here's the deal. Our kids love us. They love us so much, right? And they want to make us happy. And they don't have the skills to hold our upset, right? And so I think that's the thing is I completely agree. We need to teach our kids to process it. However, to me, that means stepping into their madness, not allowing them to step into our madness. They can't help me process my madness. They're not going to learn from watching me process my madness. In the sense of like me telling them all the things, because when I start telling them the things, when I start saying I'm just really upset, grandma's blah, 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 all the things, all they can think of is, I got to fix it. I got to fix it for mom. I got to help mom. I got to help hold her, right? And that's not their job. And so I think that we have to be really, really aware and cognizant about that. I think about kids. I use a backpack analogy, Katie. Of like kiddos are walking around with a backpack. We're all walking around with a backpack, right? Their backpacks are kid size.
Yep.
Their backpacks hold kid things. They hold drama at school and getting their grades done and all the extracurriculars, right? Their backpack does not need to hold any of our things. Like, that is not their job. They are going to want to pick up our things like we do. We all have the kid who wants to know our madness, right? And who is going to assume what they understand about our madness and try to put it in their backpack. But that's not their job. And so one of the big things about privacy that is super important for me, for parents, is when we are able to hold that privacy and not give kids grown-up situations, we are actually protecting them, right? We are actually giving them better skills and tools. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so that's sort of how I think of it, right? So if we play it out in real world scenario, right? So if I come home from work and I have had really, really challenging sessions and I am just struggling, and I have one kid who wants to know all about them and any of the craziness and why I'm upset about them or whatever, right? And so, I'm saying something about myself, which is that sometimes I have a hard time shutting it off before I get home. Yeah. And then the other thing is that I have a kid who wants to take care of me and then shift into defense mode, which is she wants to fix it and then she goes into like, I'll beat him up, like a funny thing, like it's a humorous response, and like she's trying to make me laugh and all that stuff, and I'm not there, and it's not hers to carry.
Yeah. And
so realistically, my job at that moment is to notice that they are feeling where I am. Yes. And so then instead of processing out loud, like I might with another grown-up, right? Like, listen to how hard this was. This was so challenging. And I'm depleted, and, can you just hold me for a minute, right? If it was a partner, right?
Yeah.
So instead of that, I say something like, babe, I just had a super, super hard day. I just need like 5 minutes. And so then she'll say, well, what happened? What happened? I say, you know what? It's okay. This is grown-up stuff. Give me 5 minutes and I'll be right back, right? And so then I know that I need to separate, give myself time to do what I need to do to process that stuff, set it down so that I can be present intentionally, and then come back, and then to debrief with her later so that she's not confused about what has happened. I can say something like, sometimes on hard days I do need some extra time, right, to settle and get my brain back together, because my body is still kind of out of whack after a whole day like that.
Yeah.
But thank you for asking me how I was doing and how was your day. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that is kind of this blend of privacy and allowing some modeling to take place.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, Katie, as you were talking, I was thinking about is like, we can't really teach our kids how to process through when we are processing through.
Ooh,
right?
So good. Mm-hmm.
Because we are dysregulated. Like, we are not in the place to be able to say, like, okay, I'm thinking this because, and so now I'm going to do this. Like, we just can't, because once we are dysregulated, like, our brains and bodies are doing everything they can to regulate. So we don't even have that space to be able to teach our kids that. And so I do think that's super important, of recognizing, like, I agree, we all want to give our kids great tools, often some of the tools that we wish we would have had as kids, but like, we're not going to be able to give them to them as we are literally using them, right? Like, we got to use them and make sure we're regulated, and then, like you said, go back and debrief us, saying like, yeah, had a really hard day, I really appreciate you noticing that. Mom just had to do my thing, right? Whatever that is. Mine is I go sit in the backyard and watch the tree, right? And so, like, I had my 5 minutes, right? Thanks for giving me my 5 minutes to watch a tree.
Watch a tree.
Then we go, right?
You're so cool.
But so cool.
You're like a hippie. You know what's funny is I do like almost the exact same thing, but like I look at the trees, and sometimes I draw them, so it's very similar.
No drawing, just watch the tree. But yeah, and so I do think that's super important, because we all want our kids to have those tools, and I don't think that's a problem. But I think recognizing, like, it's not, and unintentionally, sometimes when we are giving them too much information, we are because they're kids and they think the world's about them. They make it about them. They think it's their job to fix, and that's really challenging, because a lot of times we can't even fix the big things, right? That like really are big and blow up. And so I think helping to recognize, like, we just have to help regulate ourselves and protect our kids. And privacy is part of protection.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so what about the one that we hear where it's like, if I expect to be able to know everything about my kids, then why should I be? It's not a fair expectation, right? I get to know everything about my kids. They should get to know everything about me.
Which is also often my child's response about why when I set the privacy boundary. You know all of my things. But I think, so here's what I think about that, and I believe it. It's like, I know to help support you. And I don't know all the things, right?
I was just going to say, you things that are hard. Privacy.
Yeah, I do not know all the things. I know the things that are hard for her, right? Or that are really great, but I don't know all the in-betweens. And like, I will ask her, I love middle school. I think I said this before. It's like my favorite time. So the fact that my kids are in middle school, it's my favorite ages, my favorite thing. And so like, I love the middle school, like, oh, who likes who and all those things. And I will ask her straight up, like, who's got a crush on who? And she'll say, I'm not telling you. And I'll say, okay, fine. And then it's over, right? So she gets to say no to me on things, and I get to say no to her. And so I think that there's the piece of like, we know, because our job is to help them process and help them get skills and tools in that. And so I think that's the difference. And we know, because we have to help them. Our job is to help them. My child's job is not to help me. My job is literally to teach them and help them. And so I think that is, that's what I tell my kiddo all the time, because she is also likes to know the things and wants to know. I don't know. What do you say, Katie?
So, I completely agree. And this is actually pretty funny, because So I am, so I'm a single mom, obviously, duh, right? You know that because you hear all about my life. And so I date and I go on dates and you hear about all of them, right? My kids do not hear about them. But they, context clues, right? So they okay,
They're clever.
They're clever. And you know how you plug your phone into the car and then it shows what happens, right? So if a text comes across, it doesn't read the text or show the text or anything, but it shows the name or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so if it's a new name that's a dude name, they're like,
oh.
They go, Mom, who's that? Did you go on a date? How was it? Does that person have any children? How many children do they have? What is the schedule like with their children? I'm like, hey, whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But the other day I said to, one of my kids, I hope you are as nosy with your dad as you are with me. And she said, I am. And he said the same thing.
That's awesome.
I was like, okay, great. So I think in terms of all of that, I mean, the dynamics are just so interesting, especially if you have older kids. And I just want to speak to this for a moment. There is this thing that we teach in divorce world that's your kids should know nothing about your dating unless you are in a serious relationship and you've been in a serious relationship for a really long time. And well, I think that is true and ideal. When your kids are older, that's really challenging because they're not dumb. And kids are really observant. They're super observant, right? And so I think there's a level of authenticity and being a real human where, there's this, we talk about privacy and also towing that line of not lying, right?
Yeah.
Where where is that, about certain topics? And so I think the thing is that it can feel disingenuous or it can feel, and I think I want to be thoughtful about and really clear about, we're not advocating for you to lie to your kids. No. Because that, while you absolutely have a right to privacy, it will almost always come back to bite you if you tell your kids outright facts that are not true, because they are much smarter than you think. Yes. Even when we know our kids are smart, they also are super observant. Yeah. Right. And so it's really helpful if, if there are parts of your life that you want to keep private, be thoughtful about how you want to do that. And you have a right to do that, and that's okay. I think just own it, right? And so... Yes. If there are things you have your kids a lot of the time, and you are also dating, right? So talking to single parents. That is super hard to navigate. It just is very hard to navigate. And so... the reality is that you are allowed to say, I'm going to meet somebody, or I'm going on a date. And then they are going to ask you 1 million questions, and you get to say, hey guys, I'm not ready to share that with you yet. If I keep seeing this person, I will share more with you as I'm ready to. And that's uncomfortable. It feels super, super weird. Yeah. But kind of the more you practice it, the better that it feels. And the more that they're like, ugh, okay, fine. Or, that's so boring. Or, but then you just kind of, it gets better.
And they get used to that limit, right? This is a new limit for all of y'all. I think that's the other piece, recognizing like when we do talking about like specifically dating, if your family has made big transitions and restructures, it's a new, you as a parent are learning how to do this. And so it's a new limit that you're having to set, and it's a new limit for your kids.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. That is
so
completely
true.
okay. I think about like we often say, or I often say to parents, like, I'm not asking you to do everything perfectly. I just want to try to help you do it intentionally.
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
Like we're not asking that you like hard and fast 6-month rule. Never parents never know, kids never know that you're dating. Like that's not what we're saying here. We're asking you to be really intentional and understand the why of why you're setting a limit, why you're doing it, and how can we help you with the language around that, because that's really, really important. If we can understand that why, it can help our kids too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so if we shift back to talking about like our space, right?
Yeah.
So Megan, are your kids allowed to like go in your room and get into any of the drawers that you have and any of your spaces and under your bed, and like how does that work at your house?
They are absolutely not allowed to do that.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I feel
Yeah.
kind of like a jerk when my kids are in my room and they're like, I caught one of them like over by my bedside table and she's like starting to open my stuff, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? She's like,
Yeah.
just looking. I was like, get out of there.
Yes, and like in all honesty, like, and that is the expectation for everyone in the house and everyone.
Yeah.
Right. We're not allowed to.
Like, I'm not
like,
going
we
through
have
your
to
stuff.
knock on doors. Exactly. We have to knock on doors. We have to do the thing. I think the thing I say to my kids is like, my job is to teach you and grow you and police you. Your job is not to do that for me. So like if your room if I walk into your room and it's a disaster and there's food everywhere, you better be sure I'm going through your crap. I mean, stuff and pulling stuff and being
Ooh,
like,
that's good.
You better get this. Or if I'm worried about you, like if you're being sketch, you for sure, and I'm asking you and talking to you and you're not doing it, then yes, I will. But like, people do not get to walk into open doors in our house without knocking. People do not get to go into rooms in our house without asking. And that is because that's appropriate privacy for our children, for bedrooms and things like that. And so like, I very much, my privacy in my bedroom is, I love my bed. It's my favorite place in the whole world. Like, it is my sanctuary. And I allow my children to come into it appropriately, but like, they do not get to just go in my room and make themselves comfy and go through all my stuff. Like, no, not happening. Because I don't do that to them, and I want them to know that. So like, this is an easy modeling one to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too, but I have not been as intentional. So this is very helpful to me, because like, I've kind of just been more like, ew, this doesn't feel good. And so I just say no. But I haven't really thought through like all the pieces of it. So that's really helpful. It's helpful to have words around it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. What about your phone?
No, my phone has a lock, and my kids are always like, what's the code? And my code, I always tell them, is mom's the best, and they have to figure out what that actually means.
That's a good idea.
But no, they don't get to go through my phone.
Yeah, right?
Again,
It's not,
like,
it's not because there are like a million secrets or like anything like untoward. It just is like, I have a right to my own stuff. Like, you don't. I used to have the same feeling about my kids eating off my plate when they were really little, which
That's
is
hilarious.
like, which is such a small thing, and people used to be like, "What's the problem with that?" But I just felt like I have a right to my own food, man. Like, she
Yeah.
has a plate over there. I don't know. Like,
I
want
want
to
food.
I want to eat my own food. I have a plate. She has a plate. I just feel like, eat your own food.
Yeah, and I think like all of those things we get to choose those, and we get to do like what is comfortable for us, and not like always super rigid, but like, yeah, Aaron doesn't let anyone eat off his plate. except for me. But I will let everyone eat off my plate. I don't care. Like, but that's our different levels of comfortability and privacy, right? And so, like, I think the piece that we always want people to, we want really to see is like being intentional of what is it for you, and that is okay to have a limit around.
Yeah. And I'll be real, my kids did eat off my plate. I just was annoyed.
Of course. I know you did.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What are the other arguments that you often hear around, like, how do we support our kids with privacy?
Okay, so I got one. So I hear that, like, privacy creates a power dynamic. So me having privacy from my kids means that I have power and they don't. And I want us to be a democracy. And so, like, they don't like the idea of it being a hierarchy. Okay? So, like, we should be...
What do you say to that?
So, yeah, this is a good... It's interesting, right? And I feel like we could do 7 podcasts on this topic because you and I have big feelings about this. So I'll speak for me. I won't speak for you. But generally speaking, when we talk about family systems, it tends to be beneficial when there is a hierarchy. So when the parents or parent have some authority, some healthy, kind, loving authority, decision making, we're holding the boundaries, we are making the decisions, we are the ones where the buck stops, right? And so it is our job to hold the safety and all of those components for the family. And so if we spread that power out in the family, that gives children who do not have the capacity yet, because they do not have a whole brain, too much responsibility, and that creates anxiety, it creates chaos. And so what I say, because when people have this fear, right, of or this desire to create kind of a democracy in their household, that comes out of love, right?
Yes,
and
100%.
Out of a desire to serve their children beautifully, and I think that is magical and wonderful, and I love the heart behind that. And it tends to not serve their children well, right? And not only do we see that anecdotally kind of time and time again, but research bears that out. And so my feedback to that is, I can see where your heart is in that, and it is going to not serve your children as well as if you hold, here are the limits, and here's how we as a family are going to function, because I have thoughtfully considered your input, and here is what I decided, or here's what we, the parents, decided. What would you add?
No, I really like that. I think, like, we talked about the voice and the vote for a reason a lot. We did a whole podcast of that, but, like, that to me is the idea behind all of this. Is, like, I mean, that idea, our kids just don't have the capacity to hold all the big grown-up things, and I think it's really unfair when we ask them to. Because it does cause a lot of anxiety and frustration and anger and misunderstanding and confusion. And so I just, like you said, I do think, I 100% believe that parents want and believe we're doing the best for our kiddos in all the moments, and being really aware and intentional of, like, if I'm asking for my kid to be in the democracy and have a voice and a vote, what am I actually asking from them? Like, what does that actually mean? And honestly, a lot of times that means that they have way too much information for their little brains, and then they don't get to be a kid.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So so really, if we kind of like boil this down, the privacy from our kids really allows them to not have to be in our adult world.
Yes.
Right? Allows them to stay in their own child world.
Yes. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect that childhood. It's short.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when you're parenting through it, it feels really long.
Well, that's literally the podcast title.
Yeah, this is true.
It does feel long.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, y'all. We hope that this was super helpful and gave you some really interesting things to think about in terms of how you want to, kind of institute some privacy for yourself, and take care of yourself in that way. And for today, we hope that your coffee would be hot, your patience be long, and your kids' meltdowns short. And we'll see you next time.
Our music is by Stephen Bedall. If you're loving these conversations, we'd be so grateful if you followed the podcast, left a review, or shared this episode with a friend. That's how we grow this little front porch community. And remember, the days are long,
but the years are short. While we often talk about mental health, this should not be used as a substitute for mental health treatment. If you or your child are struggling, please reach out to a local provider.